Chosen one, there is a reason you cannot stop rehearsing the words you have not yet said. You have been carrying them, the explanations, the responses, the things that needed to be addressed, the conversations that were never finished, and the silence that came back to you, again and again, has sat in your chest like something unresolved, like something that still required your voice before it could move. But what if the silence was not waiting for your voice? What if God answered your situation, not with words, but with fury? The kind of fury that does not announce itself, the kind that works in the invisible before it becomes visible, the kind that does not need your help, because it has already begun. And the only thing standing between where you are right now and where that fury is taking you is the sound you keep adding to an atmosphere that was already in motion before you opened your mouth this morning. You were not brought to this moment by anything ordinary, something precise and deliberate arranged for this word to reach you now, because the fury of God is not patient, it is strategic, and what it needs from you in this hour is not another word. It is your silence, and everything that silence will allow him to do. Now, before we go further, I want to tell you why staying through this entire message matters. By the time we reach the end, you are going to understand exactly what God is building above your situation while you are still. You are going to see why the silence that has been sitting heavy on your chest is not emptiness. You are going to receive two specific tools that will help you hold this stillness without it collapsing into fear. And you are going to hear something spoken directly over your life that I believe will stay with you long after this message ends. Every part of what comes next is for you. Do not leave early. Everything I am about to share with you in this message is completely free. But if at any point something in your spirit signals that there is more you need, more than what words alone can carry, you will find it in the description and in the pinned comment below. Only when you feel led, not a moment before. Now, let me begin with the part that almost everyone gets wrong. When God goes quiet, when the prayers seem to dissolve before they rise, when the silence comes back instead of an answer, most people arrive at the same conclusion. They decide that the silence means something has gone wrong between them and heaven. And so they do what makes complete sense to a human mind. They speak more, they pray louder, they add more words to the atmosphere, believing that the way through the silence is more sound. And that pattern produces a very specific kind of exhaustion, not the kind that comes from physical work, the kind that comes from the weight of words that went somewhere and came back as nothing. You know that exhaustion, you have felt it, the kind where you have said everything there is to say, and the situation has still not moved, and you do not know what else to add, but you keep adding things anyway, because stopping feels like giving up. You are here because some part of you knows there has to be another way. Before I explain what is happening above your situation, I want you to recognize what has already been happening inside you, because your spirit has been trying to tell you something that your mind has not been willing to receive. The first thing you may have noticed is something I would describe as emotional waves that have no logical cause, a sudden, unexpected stillness in the middle of the chaos. A peace that arrives without any reason to be there, because nothing has changed and nothing has been resolved, and yet something in you becomes completely quiet for a moment, and then you become suspicious of it. You think, why am I calm right now? Should I not be doing something? So you pick the words back up, and the peace recedes. This is not confusion. This is your spirit showing you the frequency that is available to you right now. The second thing is that your tolerance has changed in ways you cannot fully explain. Environments that once felt comfortable now feel draining. Conversations that used to engage you now feel like noise. Places with constant activity and energy now feel heavy and wrong somehow. You have probably wondered if something is the matter with you, if you are becoming someone who cannot be around people. You are not. You are being recalibrated. The third thing is the racing thoughts, not general anxiety, specific words, things you want to say to specific people, conversations you have been rehearsing in your mind without ever having them, the perfect response, the correction that would set the record straight, the explanation that would finally make someone understand your position. You lie there at some late hour, holding words that have nowhere to go. This is not insomnia. This is your spirit holding a question that only silence can answer. The fourth thing is something subtler. There have been moments, specific moments in recent seasons, when you felt a strong instinct to stay quiet in a particular conversation before you understood why. And maybe you followed it. And something shifted in that situation without you saying a word. Or maybe you did not follow it, you spoke. And you noticed afterward that the speaking made things worse, not better. That instinct was not self-doubt. It was discernment. It was your spirit recognizing something your mind had not yet learned to name. And there is a fifth thing. Strange timing in your days lately. A word you have encountered from completely separate places in the same week. A situation that quietly shifted just hours after you finally stopped speaking about it. A coincidence so precise it did not feel like one. Your spirit has been accumulating evidence. Today is the day you begin to receive what that evidence is pointing toward. This is not anxiety. This is not spiritual dryness. This is not something wrong with you. This is your spirit telling you something your mind has not caught up to yet. Let me show you what that something is. In the ancient Hebrew, the book of Psalms contains a word that changes everything about how we understand silence. Psalm 62 begins with the words, most English translations render as, "My soul waits in silence for God alone." But the word translated as silence in the original Hebrew is damam, and damam does not mean what we assume it means. Damam is not the silence of someone who has given up or run out of things to say. Damam is active stillness, the posture of a soldier who has received their orders and is now holding ground, not retreating, not advancing without instruction, holding position, feet planted, eyes forward, completely still and completely ready. God has been asking you for damam, and the human instinct has been to give him noise instead. But here is what you need to understand about why this matters so much right now. The silence God is asking for is not about your comfort or your spiritual discipline. It is about something happening above your situation that requires a specific atmosphere to do its full work. Something that most people have never been shown. The closest thing I can compare it to is a hurricane. In a Category 5 storm, the winds can reach 180 miles per hour. Everything in the path of those outer bands is in motion. Trees uprooted, structures torn from their foundations. The sound is unlike anything you have heard before. And right at the center of all of that fury, there is something that appears completely impossible, a zone of stillness. A circle of calm, sometimes 20 miles across, sometimes 50, where the sky is clear and the air is almost completely quiet. The eye of the storm. Most people think of the eye as a place of shelter inside the storm, a space to breathe before the other side arrives. But that is not what the eye actually is. There is one specific thing about the eye that changes everything. And I am going to hold that truth for just a little longer, because what I am about to reveal about it in part 2 is the thing that will shift how you carry yourself through the rest of this season. But first, I want to show you the human version of the eye, because it has appeared before, in history, in specific moments where God's fury was in full motion and someone made one choice that changed everything. Moses made that choice at the edge of an impossible sea. The nation of Israel was in the worst possible position. The Red Sea was ahead of them, wide and unmovable and deep. The army of Egypt was behind them, armed and gaining ground. And the people did what frightened people always do at the edge of impossible things. They cried out, they accused, they questioned why they had been led to this place. They filled the air with every fear and every doubt they carried. And Moses stood at the edge of the impossible and said the thing that heaven needed to hear. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still, not pray harder. not speak louder, not make your case before heaven. Be still. And then the sea opened. The fury of God moved, not because the people found the right words, because Moses held the right silence. And what moved through that sea was not the result of their declarations. It was the result of their stillness, making room for something that had been waiting for the atmosphere to be ready. David understood this too. In a cave, hiding from a king who wanted him dead, David came face to face with an opportunity that no one would have blamed him for taking. Saul, the man who had been hunting him for years, walked into the very cave where David was concealed. David could have ended it right there. He could have spoken, could have acted, could have seized by his own hand what God had already promised would be his. His men were whispering that this was the moment. David chose silence. He held his position. He let the fury of God handle what David's own hand did not need to touch. And God's fury reorganized the kingdom without David saying a single word. Because what silence does is not nothing. What silence does is build. It builds something that cannot be manufactured with practice or performance. It builds character that holds weight. It builds authority. It builds the kind of trust that does not require things to look right before it holds its position. That is what this season is forming in you. The first thing silence builds is discernment. In genuine stillness, you begin to learn a difference that cannot be learned any other way. The difference between a divine instruction and a human anxiety. These two things produce completely different sensations in your spirit when you are quiet enough to feel them. Instruction arrives with a settled quality, a certainty that does not need to explain itself. Anxiety arrives fast and urgent and demanding immediate movement. In the constant noise of speaking, these two voices are impossible to separate. In silence, they become completely distinct. The second thing silence builds is sovereign authority. The men and women who have been elevated after long seasons of deliberate stillness carry something when they finally speak that no amount of practice can give you. Something real, something weighted. The quiet, unmistakable authority of someone who held their ground when everything around them was screaming to react. And the third thing is a trust that requires no proof. Not the kind that believes things will work out eventually. The kind that holds position, regardless of what it can see. This is what David walked out of that cave carrying. This is what Moses walked into the sea with. And this is what is being built in you right now, in this season that has felt more like burial than preparation. What you are experiencing is not delay, it is formation. Now I want to tell you something that I believe is going to make everything I have been sharing today very tangible. There is a neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake who spent 34 years documenting what happens in the brain of people who enter genuine strategic silence at critical moments in their lives. And what he found was not a single result. It was a sequence, a specific sequence of restoration phases, each one making the next one possible. What you are walking through right now is the first of those phases, the one everything else depends on. He built a tool specifically designed to work with this first phase. It is called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track that uses brain entrainment technology to activate what neuroscientists call the gamma frequency. Gamma is the brainwave state that opens during genuine stillness, the receiving state, the frequency of the I, the state in which the brain is most perceptive, most open, and most clear. It is the state that ancient figures who walked through impossible seasons were operating in without knowing the science behind it. And it is the state that your brain was designed for from the beginning. If your spirit resonates with what I am pointing to here, the information is in the description and in the pinned comment below. Do not search for it anywhere else. Only follow when you feel ready. But before this part ends, I need to give you one more piece, because there is still something about the hurricane eye that I have not told you. And it is the thing that changes what your silence means in this specific season. You have been thinking of the eye as a place of shelter inside the storm, a safe zone inside the fury. But that is not what the I is. In the ancient Hebrew, the word for God's fury, for his divine wrath, is a word called kema. And kema does not mean what the English word wrath makes you picture. Chema, in the original language, means heat, not the fire of destruction, the heat of a forge. The specific temperature a blacksmith uses not to burn the metal, but to reshape it, to transform it into something it could never have become while it was cold. The kema of God is moving above your situation right now. And in part 2, I am going to show you something that will pull every piece of this together. Not in a small way, in the way that makes the silence finally make sense. In the way that changes what you understand about the I, about the fury, and about the specific position you have been holding without knowing what it actually is. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you is the thing that answers every question you have been carrying into this season. Do not stop here. Chosen one. In the first part of this message, we arrived at something. You heard the word damam, the active stillness that God asks for. Not passive resignation, but positioned readiness. You walked through Moses at the sea and David in the cave. You saw the hurricane eye for the first time, and I told you there was something about it I had not yet revealed, something that changes what the eye means. And I left you with a word. Chema, the fury of God, heat, the heat of a forge that does not destroy but reshapes. Now let me complete this, because what I am about to show you in the next few minutes is the thing that pulls every piece of this together. And it is the one reframe that I believe this season has been waiting for you to receive. For your entire life, whenever a storm arrived, the goal was to survive it, to find shelter, to get through it, to reach the other side where the air is clear and the noise is gone. And that is a reasonable response when the storm has no purpose. But what if this storm has a specific purpose? And what if the person at the center of it is not the one being punished? What if they are the one the storm is moving for? Here is what meteorologists know about the hurricane eye that almost no one carries into daily life. The eye is not a gap in the storm. It is not a safe space carved out of the chaos. The eye is the low-pressure center, the organizational axis that the entire storm system rotates around. The eye generates the pressure differential that powers every outer band. The fury, the winds, the movement, all of it depends on the stillness at the center to maintain its structure. Remove the eye, and the storm collapses. Your silence is not you hiding from the fury of God. Your silence is the center the fury rotates around. You are not surviving this season from inside it. You are the axis this season spins around. And every time you open your mouth to manage what God is already managing, you are not adding to the storm. You are disrupting the eye. You are introducing turbulence into the one place in the entire system that needs to stay still for the rest of it to work. Now let me tell you what that kema has been doing while you have been learning to hold your position. What felt like God being silent was actually God being precise. What felt like abandonment was actually positioning. What felt like nothing happening was actually everything being reorganized in directions you were not yet positioned to see. What felt like your prayers going unanswered was actually the answer approaching from a direction you were not watching. And what felt like the storm coming for you was actually the storm being sent by the fury of the one who chose you, clearing everything in your path that needed to be moved before you could step into what he prepared. And I hear the Father speaking in this moment, clearly and specifically, over every chosen one who has been carrying what you have been carrying. He is saying this: I am not quiet. I am not resting. I am not waiting for you to find the right words before I act. I am furious. And that fury is not at you. It is for you. What I need from you right now is not another word spoken in panic. I need your stillness. Because the things I am moving above your situation, they cannot be moved by your voice. Only by who you choose to be in this moment. The still one. The one who holds position while heaven fights. Close your mouth. Let me work. Now, let me show you exactly what the Kema is clearing above your situation while you hold your silence. Because this is not abstract. This is specific. And one of these three things is going to land directly on the situation you carried into this message today. The first thing God's fury is clearing is the relationships that would have blocked what is coming. Not always the ones you would expect. Sometimes, these are people who are genuinely kind, genuinely connected to you, but who simply cannot hold what you are becoming. Their ceiling has become your floor, and movement from one season into the next requires a change in who has close proximity to your life. You may have felt some of these connections loosening in recent months. People who were always present now feel further away. Some have exited quietly. Others have not been quiet about it at all. And you have wondered whether you pushed them away, whether something you said or did not say held the key to keeping it together. There was no key. You cannot enter a new room while your arms are still full of what belongs to the previous one. The fury is not punishing you with these exits. It is making space for what you do not yet have the capacity to imagine. The second thing the Kema is clearing is the narrative that was built against you in rooms you were not in. Words spoken about you without your voice in them. Versions of your story constructed from one side of something you experienced from a completely different angle. And the deeply understandable human instinct is to correct it, to speak your version, to set the record straight before it spreads any further. But here is what God's fury does that your best argument cannot. It dismantles the lie from the inside. It removes the structural support from the false narrative until it can no longer hold its own weight. Not through your defense, through the kind of exposure that only heaven can orchestrate. You cannot outspeak a lie that God has decided to take down. The fury is more efficient than your explanation, and it is faster. And the third thing, this is the deepest clearing of all, is the pattern inside you that requires the outside world to confirm your worth. The habit of explaining until someone understands. The compulsion to keep speaking until the experience is validated. The tendency to react when you are misrepresented, because silence in the face of misrepresentation feels like agreement with the version that is not true. This pattern is old. It formed a long time ago in a season that taught you, correctly, that your voice was one of the only protections you had. But it is the one pattern that makes you most vulnerable right now. Because where God is taking you requires a version of you that no longer needs external confirmation to maintain an internal position. He is not just rearranging what is outside you, he is rearranging the architecture inside you. And that kind of rearranging requires the silence to go deep. Here is the truth at the center of everything I have been building toward. Your words were not just unnecessary in this season, they were the friction. Every time you spoke your fear out loud, the fury had to work around it. Every time you defended your name in a conversation that God had already taken to a higher court, heaven paused while you made your argument. Every time you tried to explain yourself, tried to manage the outcome with the force of your own reasoning, you slowed down something that was already moving, faster than explanation can travel. This is not condemnation. This is the most freeing truth I know how to offer. Because it means the situation has not stalled because of something irreversible. It has slowed because of something you can change. Starting right now, let me tell you about a man I know of. He was publicly accused of something he did not do. In a professional context, with the kind of accusation that spreads fast and sticks hard. His immediate response was what any reasonable person would feel. He had the evidence, he had the receipts. He had the calm, documented, articulate response that would have completely cleared his name. Anyone who knew the situation agreed that he had every right and every reason to speak. He chose to say nothing, not for one day, for 40 days. He did not post, he did not respond to the people asking him to address the accusations. He did not explain himself to anyone who came to him with the narrative being built against him. On day 14, someone who had believed the accusation reached out to him unprompted and apologized. He did not say a word. On day 28, new information came to light through a source that had absolutely nothing to do with him. He did not say a word. On day 37, the person who had made the accusation was publicly exposed, not by anything he set in motion, not by any defense he had prepared, but by the fury of something he had simply chosen not to get in the way of. What came after the 40 days was not just vindication. It was the specific door that the accusation had been standing in front of. Now, open, fully, without him having to force it. He did not fight his way to the other side. He was still enough to let the fury carry him there. Now, let me give you the practical piece, because understanding this is not enough. The question is how you actually hold this silence without it becoming fear, without the stillness becoming avoidance, without your quietness feeling like defeat. Here are 2 specific things you can begin in the next 72 hours. The first is what I call the 72-hour silence protocol. 3 specific behaviors for the next 3 days. The first behavior is this. In any conversation where your name or your character comes into question, you say nothing to defend it. Nothing. Let the absence of your defense be its own statement. The second behavior is simpler but harder. In any situation where you make a decision that affects your own life, you do not explain that decision to anyone who did not explicitly ask for your reasoning. The decision stands on its own. You do not narrate it. The third behavior is this. Every word you want to say but are choosing not to say, you write it down somewhere instead. Not to suppress what you feel. To give the paper the weight that your voice has been carrying, because the point is not to kill the word. The point is to choose where it goes. At the end of 72 hours, notice what has shifted in your situation. Not what has not shifted. What has. The fury was working before you started this message. You will begin to see the fingerprints. The second tool is what I call the fury monitor. Before you speak in any high-stakes conversation in this season, pause and ask yourself 2 questions. Is what I am about to say coming from a divine instruction or from human anxiety? And will what I am about to say help what God is already doing, or will it add friction to a system that is already in motion? Instruction arrives with a settled quality to it, certainty that does not need to justify itself. Anxiety arrives fast and demanding and wants action immediately. In genuine stillness, you will learn to tell them apart very quickly. Silence from faith feels like rest. Silence from fear feels like suffocation. Learning the difference between those 2 things is the entire practice. Before I show you the tool that Dr. Robert Lake built specifically for this state, because I am going to show you, there is one more truth I need to give you first. And this one does not just explain why silence works, it explains why it can work this fast. And why what God is moving above your situation right now may be considerably closer to completion than you have allowed yourself to believe. Stay with me, because what comes next is the piece that makes everything you receive today physically accessible from this moment forward. Let me be clear about what you have already received today before we go further. You walked into this message carrying something you have been trying to manage with your voice, and you encountered something different. You learned what Dhammam actually means. Not passive resignation, but the active, positioned readiness of someone holding deliberate ground. You walked through Moses at the sea and David in the cave, both of whom let the fury of God accomplish what their speaking never could. You received the reframe of the hurricane eye, understanding that you are not the one surviving the storm, but the axis the storm rotates around. You saw 3 specific things that God's Kema is clearing above your situation. And you heard how one man held 40 days of silence and watched heaven dismantle what no argument could have moved. You now have 2 specific tools for the next 72 hours. And you understand that the silence being asked of you in this season is not weakness. It is the most strategic thing you can offer to what is already in motion. That is what today has given you. And there is one more piece. What I want to show you now is grounded in something that decades of neuroscience research confirmed about exactly this kind of season. Researchers across several major universities, MIT and Princeton among them, documented, across more than 3 decades of study, something consistent about people who moved through extended seasons of deliberate stillness and came out the other side, having experienced what can only be described as comprehensive reversals, not small improvements, complete reversals of situations that had appeared completely immovable. The consistency was not in what they prayed, it was not in what they declared, it was in a specific brainwave state they were able to enter and maintain during the silent period. Scientists call it gamma frequency, and what the research confirmed is that gamma is most accessible in genuine, intentional stillness, not the stillness of exhaustion or shutdown. The positioned, deliberate stillness that the figures we have talked about today all had in common. Gamma is the state in which the brain is simultaneously most active and most receptive, most rested and most perceptive. The state in which knowing arrives before evidence does. The state in which the invisible becomes visible before anyone else is looking. This frequency is your original design. Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years studying what he called the decline effect, the gradual suppression of gamma that begins in childhood and accelerates under the noise and pressure of modern life. Your capacity for the receiving state, the state that the prophet and the warrior and the chosen figure in the cave all accessed, has been diminished over time. Not because of anything you did wrong, because of the environment that formed you. Dr. Lake built a tool to restore direct access to this frequency, an audio track, 7 minutes long, that uses brain entrainment technology to guide the brain from what scientists call beta, the reactive, defending, noise-producing state, into the clear signal of gamma. You listen through headphones. You settle wherever you are. You do nothing except receive. And the research shows it begins working from the very first use. More than 18,000 people have used this tool. The refund rate across the 90-day guarantee window has remained below 4%, which means more than 96% of the people who experienced it once chose to continue. That is not a claim. That is data from people who, like you, were in a season that required more than what speaking alone could give them. Now I know what some of you are carrying into this. 7 minutes sounds almost too simple for a situation as layered as yours. But that is precisely why it works. Complexity is what the reactive brain produces when it cannot access a deeper signal. 7 minutes of gamma access is not about the complexity of your problem. It is about restoring your capacity to receive the solution that is already being prepared above you. And I want to speak to something else directly. For some of you, the question is not whether this works. The question is whether you are worth investing $39 in your own capacity to receive in a season where everything feels uncertain. You have spent more than that this week on things that cannot touch what is being asked of you right now. This is not a purchase. It is a key. And the door it opens does not require your confidence to work. It only requires your willingness. It is called the Genius Song. Let me share one more story. A woman in a legal situation that had been running for almost 2 years, unable to sleep, unable to think with the clarity the situation demanded. She began using the Genius Song each morning, not as a spiritual practice at first, just 7 minutes of intentional stillness before the noise of the day began. Within 2 weeks, a clarity she had not had in months returned. A perspective on the situation that changed the entire legal strategy. The case resolved 4 months later in her favor. She wrote afterward, "I have done more spiritual things in my life, but nothing gave me back my own mind the way 7 minutes of silence did. Now let me tell you what accessing this costs. A neurofeedback clinic session targeting similar brainwave states runs approximately $150 per visit. Consistent results typically require weeks of attendance. Online mindfulness courses working with related principles range from $100 to $200. Monthly meditation app subscriptions run around $15 with no gamma targeting and no brain entrainment technology. None of these alternatives were designed for this season. None of them were built for the chosen one who is currently holding the axis of a storm that is moving specifically for them. Dr. Lake priced the Genius Song at $49, already far below any comparable option. For people accessing it through this specific message, the price is $39. This is not a promotional discount. This is how Dr. Lake has chosen to distribute this to the people he believes are in the season that most needs it. It is not available at this price anywhere else. Included with it, at no additional cost, are 4 resources. An audio track calibrated specifically for children, valued at $19, so that the generation coming after you does not lose access to what you are reclaiming. The original source text that the film The Secret was built from, valued at $20 on its own. A 22-minute guided visualization walking through 4 areas of life, valued at $29. And a practical daily reference laying out the 5 habits that keep gamma active after the initial reactivation, valued at $12. That is $80 in additional resources, completely free with the $39 access. And if you use it for 90 days and feel it was not what this moment required, Dr. Lake will return every dollar. Not just for the Genius Song itself, you keep all 4 additional resources, all $80 of materials, as his acknowledgement of the time you invested in trying. There is only one place to access this, the link in the description below and the pinned comment at the top of the comments section. Do not search for it independently. There are imitations that do not carry the genuine brain entrainment technology the research was built on. The only source Dr. Lake endorses is the one I am directing you to right now. If your spirit says yes, the link is there waiting. Follow only when you are ready. Before this message ends, I want to give you something right now. Not with your body, not with your hands, with your mind. Wherever you are at this moment, whatever position you are in, I want you to bring one image into your imagination. Let it settle behind your eyes. You are standing at the absolute center of an enormous storm. Around you, in every direction, everything is in motion. Wind, force, sound, you can almost feel. The fury is enormous, and it is real, and it is moving things that have not moved in a very long time. And right where you are standing, the air is completely, utterly still. You are not terrified. You are not confused. You are not waiting for the storm to pass before you become who you are. You are the eye, the axis, the still point around which everything rotates and from which everything moves. Now breathe slowly. Let that image settle into your chest, not as a thought you are holding, as a reality that is already in motion above your situation, right now, while you are still. And I hear the Father speaking now, directly, over this specific person who held their position all the way through this message. He is saying this, chosen one, close your mouth, let me fight. What I am building above your situation does not need your voice to complete it. It needs your trust. And your trust looks like your stillness, not forever. For this season, I will tell you when to speak. Until then, hold your position. I am furious. I am moving. And everything I am doing, every door I am opening, every narrative I am dismantling, every relationship I am clearing space for, I am doing it for you. Now let me take a moment before we close and simply acknowledge what you carried into this message today. The weight of words held back, the exhaustion of speaking into spaces that gave nothing back, the loneliness of a silence that felt like rejection when it was something else entirely. I see that, and I want you to know that what you brought here today and what you are choosing to set down has been witnessed, not just by me. Father, I come before you on behalf of every chosen one who has stayed through this entire message. For the one who has been holding words that felt like they would burst, if held one more day, I ask that you release them from the weight of the argument they never needed to make. Let the fury handle what no human mouth was designed to carry alone. For the one who has been watching relationships change and circumstances shift and wondering if something has gone wrong, let them feel the truth of what you are doing above them. Not as information, as weight in the chest, the specific, settled weight of something real that is already in motion. I release into this moment every unspoken word, every rehearsed defense, every explanation that has been held like a clenched fist in someone's spirit for too long. Let it fall. The court that matters has already received the case. The Kema is at work. The I is holding its position. You are chosen. You are positioned. You are the I. And so it is. If something in this message landed specifically, if the word Kema settled into you in a way that felt like recognition, type I am still in the comments right now. Not as a request, as a declaration, a statement of the position you are choosing. And if you know a chosen one who has been unusually quiet lately, someone going through something they have not been able to explain to anyone, someone who has been carrying words they cannot seem to release, share this with them today. The fury of God is already working for them too. They need to know what they are standing in the center of. If this space has become somewhere your spirit returns to for truth, stay. What the Father is building in you through this season is something deeper than one revelation. It is a destiny's embrace that this silence has been preparing you for all along. And there is more in this space that belongs to you. The fury is moving, the I is holding, the Kema is doing what your best argument never could. Hold your ground.